The Blues Brothers are back. Let's play hardball. Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington. Let me start with the great news. The gang's back together. Bill Clinton, Big Bill himself, the one and only Bubba, was out on the town last night serenading Manhattan on the reasons Barack Obama absolutely needs to get reelected. He hit every note, most of them never heard before, about how the Republicans in Congress are nuts enough to do what old Europe is doing, cutting spending, killing jobs, running austerity and their economies right into the ground. And there they were, side by side, Bill and Barack, back together on the same stage, hitting a trio of Big Apple fundraisers, and they're making the Democratic message sing. We start with that, and also with two MSNBC political analysts. Chris Cillizza is managing editor of PostPolitics.com, and Ron Reagan is author of My Father at 100. Gentlemen, I want you to look at this amazing scene last night, perhaps his best moment of the night. Bill Clinton last night delivered a clear and, I believe, concise comparison of what the Republicans are pushing for with the economy to the financial crisis in Europe. Let's watch him.
Why aren't things roaring along now? Because Europe is in trouble and because the Republican Congress has adopted the European economic policy. Who would have thought after years and years and years, even decades, in which the Republican right attacked old Europe, that they would embrace the economic policies of the Eurozone? Austerity and unemployment now at all costs. I mean, after all, their unemployment rate's 11% and ours is 8%. We can get right up there if we just adopt their policies. You're laughing, but you need to tell people this. That's what they're being asked to vote for.
God, this is like Eisenhower joining the campaign in 1960, Chris Cillizza. I mean, there he is, roaring. There were so many thoughts in that little number we just heard. I want you to analyze them. What was Clinton saying there?
Here, well, let me say as broadly as humanly possible first, Chris. This is what Bill Clinton is tremendous at. He's better at this than Barack Obama. He's better at this than almost anybody, probably anybody in either party operating at, right now, which is he takes things that are very complex, like the economy. It is not a simple thing. And he breaks it down into these digestible chunks that when you hear it, you think, oh, yeah, that makes some sense. He ties Republicans to Europe, and even if you don't know exactly what's going on there, you know it's not good economically. And he essentially says, look, 8% unemployment's not great, but if Republicans are in charge, it's going to go up, not down. So he's doing a lot of different things there, but what he's broadly doing is essentially framing this in a common sense way for people who are not following every second of this debate, who can say, yeah, this makes sense to me. That's his genius. That's what he's always been good at. And he continues to be good at it.
And compare that, Ron, to the jackasses on the right who are out there saying that, Obama is some kind of socialist from Europe. He says, no, there's something worse afoot right now in Europe right now. It's called that effort over there to squeeze the economy down to the stone practically. Cut out. You have 11% unemployment over in Europe with all this draconian cuts over there. Just what the Republicans are promising to do here, they've already blown it out there in Europe with. He's nailing the guy on so many fronts.
Well, yes, and there's a nice ironic twist to this, of course, as Chris was saying. It's the Republicans who are usually citing Europe as that this socialist miasma that we don't want to go anywhere near that, And Obama, he's so European-ish in what he's doing. Well, it is, in fact. I just got back from Europe, as a matter of fact. I've been in Italy for the last couple of weeks, and people are very upset over in Europe about the way things have been going, needless to say. But the irony is that the Republicans who disdain Europe so much are adopting European austerity policies which do not work. We've seen the experiment of Republican-era economics over there in Europe for weeks now, months now, and it isn't working. It's failing. Britain in a double-dip recession already. So that's the delicious irony of this.
Yeah, postcard from Europe dropped that. Here's Clinton in his defense of Obama, by the way. This is good stuff, a good embrace. He painted Romney's economic plan in bleak terms. Let's watch it right now from last night.
His opponent, who said that he's got a better idea, was a governor of a state that was 47th in the country in job growth. He promised that if elected, he would grow the economy and reduce the debt, and when he left office, the debt of the state was going up. And his plan is to go back to the Bush program, except on steroids. The Romney Republican plan is austerity and more unemployment now, and blow the lid off later, just at the time when we were worried about high interest rates. What's the difference here? Shared prosperity versus continued austerity and high unemployment. A politics of cooperation versus constant conflict and divide and conquer.
Wow, he says it better than certainly I've been trying to say the same thing, Chris, which we need to get a job production program in the short run, a debt reduction program in the long run. He says that Romney's doing the opposite. No jobs in the short run so they can get elected, and then nothing done now or ever about debt reduction. Your thoughts?
First of all, Chris, let me just say, as kind of an observer of politics, how clear is it that Bill Clinton loves this stuff? I mean, he is in his element.
You love when you're good at it, my friend.
100%. Good point. If you're good at something, you enjoy it. And he is good at this. I think what he did there, which is very smart, which, to be frank, I think the Obama campaign has struggled with, is the Obama campaign keeps saying, this is a choice, not a referendum. It's a choice between what Barack Obama has done and will do and what Mitt Romney has done and will do. They've not sold that all that effectively. I would say what Bill Clinton is saying there is, he kept saying, look at Romney's plan. Look at what he'll do. Here's the difference. Again, stark terms, simple terms, taking something complex, making it simple and saying, this is what the world would look like with Barack Obama. We know that. Here's what the world would look like with Mitt Romney. Which one of those two do you want? Yeah. That has to be the dynamic. Right. Because frankly, Chris, if it's a referendum on the economy, Barack Obama is not going to be reelected.
I know. Let me tell you something, what I like, my little perspective, and let me get yours, Ron. You know, I've been around longer than both of you guys. I'm going to tell you, this next thing here is classic Clinton. And he's able to do something here about that birther crap that the president can't do. Because the president, when he talks about birthers, is in a way playing defense against a charge against him. When a buddy comes along like Clinton, a political ally comes along, a confederate, if you will, he can knock these crazies, these jackasses on the far right who are birthers and liars much more effectively. Clinton praised Obama last night for having achieved what he did with the crazy sideshow of these birthers going on all the time trying to distract him at a game. Anyway, here he is talking about Florida Republican. I don't think he's a Republican. He's a radical. Congressman Allen West's recent remarks that there are 78 to 81, I like the precision, communists now serving as Democrats in the United States Congress. I don't think there's 80 communists in the country. Anyway, let's watch.
And he's had to get all this done while people as recently as last week were still saying he wasn't born in America. He's had to get all this done with a House of Representatives that had one of the Tea Party members claim that 78 to 81 members of the Democratic caucus were members of the Communist Party, and neither the presidential nominee nor any of the leaders rebuked him for saying that. This is not the 1950s. At least Joe McCarthy could skate on the fact that there was one or two living communists walking around. Nobody's seen a communist in over a decade.
Well, it's a great show, Ron. It's a great show of history knowledge, too.
I don't know that there are 80 communists in communist China anymore. I mean, I don't know where are communists anywhere?
Well, Fidel's still around. I hate to say it. He's still around. And Raul.
Okay, he does this great, and he also does something that Barack Obama is also not that good at, and that is telling people all the good things that he's done. 4.3 million jobs raised in the private sector. The job losses are really coming in the public sector because the state and local governments are laying off their employees, as Republicans would insist, as the Europeans like Angela Merkel might insist as well. And we have to remember too that this is really not just about debt and deficit. If you really look at this, what the Republicans want is to dismantle the social welfare system that's been in place since the Depression. That's what's going on in Europe, too. On one side, the right wants to dismantle all these protections in health care and what have you. And, of course, the Democrats here in the United States are trying to hold on to those things, even if they have to compromise. They want to just preserve the status quo.
We were just in a country, by the way, where I never had an unhappy moment, by the way. I think Italy's the nicest country in the world to visit. Anyway, let's go right. Here's more of Clinton, because I want to talk in a minute with you guys about his brilliance in doing all these good shots last night for President Obama and skipping away from this thing last week where they were disagreeing about hedge funds and equity and all that stuff and Cory Booker stuff. Here's Clinton last night again. We're singing his praises. Didn't shy away from championing his own success as president. But he went on to talk about the case for Obama's re-election. He also pointed out how he's learned all this stuff he's getting good at, even better than ever at. He studies economics 2 hours a day. Let's watch.
I do spend 2 hours a day still studying these economic trends around the world and studying what is going on in America. And I care about the long-term debt of the country a lot. Remember me, I'm the only guy that gave you 4 surplus budgets out of the 8 I sent. So I don't think it's important to reelect the president. I think it is essential to reelect the president if we want this country to have the kind of future that our children and grandchildren deserve.
Well, Chris, the 23rd Amendment doesn't look too good right now, does it? One limiting the number of terms of a president. I mean, he looks like he's ready to go. He's been in there since 1992. Up till now, he looks like he'd be pretty good.
Well, first of all, anyone who's covered Clinton knows that he would love to serve another term as president, let's be honest. But I think you made an important point, and Ron touched on it too, Chris, which is there are definitely things that a high-profile surrogate like Bill Clinton can and should say that the President of the United States struggles with, both just temperamentally who he is and how he presents himself, but also because there are things that are harder when you are sitting in the White House every day to talk about. I think that's why Clinton is critically important, both for what we're seeing here. You know, he's talking to big Democratic donors in these clips. He's good at that, but he's maybe even better at going to places that I know, Chris, you and I have talked about a lot. Scranton, rural Ohio. These are places where Bill Clinton can really go, be effective, and sell that, okay, you may not love Barack Obama, but the alternative is worse message. And frankly, in those places, he probably sells that message better than Barack Obama. He, I think, is critically important both to be on board and on message to help Barack Obama win over some of those on-the-fence folks in that Rust Belt industrial Midwest.
Yeah, well, if he could meet the residence requirements, he'd be a governor of Pennsylvania tomorrow morning. Anyway, Chris Cillizza, Ron Reagan, gentlemen, thank you so much.